Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Hasan Khurram and this is my channel Algorithm Mind. This is where I actually teach Python programming skills, MATLAB programming skills and R skills. I teach theoretical concepts and practical programming skills in data science, data analysis and statistical analysis. So I request you to subscribe to my channel and stay tuned for more educational content ahead. So in today's tutorial, I'm going to discuss about the fundamentals of Python programming. So this tutorial is specifically beneficial for those people who are just starting with Python programming. So I'm going to discuss the two functions, maximum and minimum, and how do you actually can use in Python programming. So those of you who are quite new to Python programming, so they can get an idea of how to actually use built-in functions in Python. So the two functions that we're going to discuss in today's lecture are max and min. So we have like max function that returns the maximum value from an iterable such as list, tuple or sets. So we have like a maximum function with max, and that takes the input argument, and the input argument is an iterable like a list that has a number of numeric values like 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and it calculates the maximum value within that list and returns that maximum value. But this is not it is not defined to a single iterable. You can also pass multiple elements, like instead of defining like a single element, single list like 1, 2, 3, a list of that contains an element of 4 values. You can also simply pass 4 elements, 1, 2, 3, 4, and it will return you the maximum value. And one optional key feature of this function is such that it has an option key argument that allows you to customize the comparison. I will discuss that in later on this tutorial. So this is where you will be actually able to understand this concept more better. And lastly, if you, as I have told you, like you can pass an input argument that is a list or iterable. But if the list is empty or list is empty list, it will return the default value if we have provided. If we don't provide that default value, it will raise a value error. We will also discuss that concept in later on in this tutorial. So this is like a max function. The minimum function min that calculates the minimum value follows the same analogy, follows the same input argument and returns the same values, but the difference is that it calculates the minimum value as compared to max function, which actually calculates the maximum value. So let's move on to actually practical programmings and just throw that theoretical aspect in right now in dustbin. So because we want to learn those concepts through practical and through exercise. So this is what I'm going to teach you in this tutorial. So let's move on. So first of all, let's declare a list. I have declared a variable name numbers. Then I have passed a list to that variable name, and the list contains some elements of numeric values 10, 5, 20, 15, 8 and 12. So basically it's a list that contains those elements. I have declared those elements in a number. Now once I have my list, what I will do, I will pass that list to that function max and minimum, that in turn will return me the maximum value and the minimum value within that list, or the elements that are present within that list. So the generic notation to use that function in Python is such that first of all, I will declare a variable name. It could be anything, but right now, for my understanding, for better interpretability of the code, I will name it as max value and min value. So let's discuss about max value. So I have declared a variable name max value. Then I have assigned a value by using a max function. Max is used for that max function. Then I have passed the input argument, which is in our case is the list we have declared earlier, numbers. And in the same way, I'm declaring a variable name min value and passing the input argument numbers to min function and assigning that value to variable name min value. Once I have done that, and once I have calculated a minimum value and maximum value within that list, now I'm going to display those results by using print function. And within the print function, I'm using f function method. F string method, that actually allows us to embed any numeric value or character value within a string. By embedding, I means then run the code, we want to actually dynamically display the value after the text. The maximum value is this. So based on whatever the list that has been declared earlier, for example, that list could change from this value. Let's say there is a 100 value, and let's say there is a 200 value. In that case, 2000 value. In that case, the maximum value will be 2000. So we want to display it dynamically. So in that case, we will use fstring method that will dynamically display that maximum value within that string by using print function. So let me just get rid of that. So I'm using this two print functions here, first for the maximum value and second one is for the minimum value. And the analogy and the syntax notation of fstring method is such that you will simply write f, then you will pass the quotation marks, as you see I have declared here. Then I will write the whatever the string or I want to display. For example, in our case, the minimum value is colon. Then within those curly braces, I am going to define declare the variable that I want to show its value. So in our case, it's max value and min value. And once I have done that, I will close the quotation mark. And finally, that whole thing is passed into an input argument print. So this is the generic notation how you actually use min and max function in Python, or you want to use any other functions that are built in within Python library. So let me just run it. So you see that our library, like in our code, in the list has a maximum value of 20, which is quite obvious that we see that the maximum value is actually 20, and the minimum value is 5, and we can actually see that from the list that the minimum value is actually 5. So this was a quite generic and a simple case. Let's move on and actually expand the capabilities of this min and max function in Python programming. Now I'm going to declare another library here that has actually the names of 5 people, and such that one has a name of Alice, Bob, Charlie, David, and Emma. One key thing to notice here that each name, within each name, the character length of each name is different. For example, Bob has 3 characters, David has 5 characters, Emma has 4 characters, Charlie has 7 characters. If you recall, as I discussed earlier, that this max function or min function has also optional key argument that allow us to customize the comparison. In the first case, as we have done the comparison was based on numeric value, which was quite generic. Right now, we are focused on comparing this list or the names based on their character length. That is, whatever name has the maximum characters in it, or whatever name has the minimum characters in it, we want to do comparison in that sort of sense. So we can actually do that by using min and max function. So if once I have declared my list here, the list of names, I'm going to use the same analogy or same syntax I have used earlier. I will declare a variable name, longest name, and shortest name. Then I'm going to pass those values, and then I'm going to assign some values to it by using max function and min function. For longest name, I'm going to use max function. Then I'm going to pass 2 input arguments. The first one is actually the names, which is a list. And the second is an optional input argument, which defines the comparison, how you actually want to compare that list and extract the maximum value out of it. So in our case, is actually the character length, and that can be actually defined within that section syntax key is equal to len. So this is how you actually define the character length, the comparison that should be based on character length. And we have done the same thing for shortest name, and we are assigning it value by using main function and passing 2 input argument, names and key is equal to len. So this is how you actually do the comparison. That is quite different to numeric comparison, where the values are based on numeric, which one is the highest or lowest. And once I have actually extracted the lowest and the highest name that has actually the highest value of characters, that has the lowest value of characters, I will use the same print function, then f string method, and display the value dynamically. So once I have done that, let me just run this code of section of code for you. Now you can actually see that the Charlie, which has the highest character length, and Bob has the lowest character length. But what if I use Emma Watson? Okay, in that case, Emma Watson will have the highest character length, so it should display give us the Emma Watson in the longest name. Now you see that Emma Watson is indeed the longest name in our list. So that's the benefit you can get actually using fstring method here, that you can actually dynamically display values based on your list or the methodology you have used earlier. Now moving on to the last concept here, as I have recalled that I have actually discussed briefly that if you pass min and max an empty list, it will return a default value if you have provided this default value. If you don't have provided the default value, it will raise a value error. So we are going to use two concepts as we have discussed earlier to actually conclude that example. So let's move on to that example. First of all, let me create an empty list. You can see that I have declared a variable named empty list, and just by passing just writing two square braces and not writing any element within that braces, I'm declaring an empty list. And I'm also passing default value is equal to NA, which is a string value. So you see that I have declared my empty list, and I also have declared default value. So we are going to use the same syntax. We will declare two variable names, max empty and min empty. It could be anything, but for our interpretation and understandability, we are using max empty and min empty. So I'm going to use max function and min function. Then I will pass two input arguments. The first input argument will always be the list that we actually want to compare or extract the maximum value. So in our case, we want to test it with empty list. So we have passed empty list here. Now, as you recall that this min-max function do take additional arguments within it. So in the second example, the additional argument was actually the type of comparison we want to do. But in this case, the additional argument we are passing is actually the default value that should be displayed if the list that we are passing it as an input argument is actually empty list. So we are using this notation here, default is equal to default value, which is a declared variable name here. So these are we have declared max and minimum, and once we have done that, I'm using the same fstring method and declaring some text before the actual dynamic value that being embedded in the string. So once I run that, you see that the list was actually empty, and it so now returns only the default value here that you can see here. This here statement, the default value is actually NA. But what if I actually change the default value to XYZ? Now you will see that the default value actually that will be printed will be actually XYZ, because that's what I actually meant by that. If whenever the string whenever the iterable is empty, then it will return default value if we have actually declared it. And in that case, the default value is NA for our interpretability. Okay, means that it's not iterable because our empty list is empty. So that makes sense to actually write here NA, which says that our list is actually empty, so it's not applicable to actually implement this method. But let's see, what if that list is not empty? Will the result change? So we can actually run that experiment right now. I will use the same list here, numbers. And while calculating the minimum, instead of passing the empty list, I will actually pass numbers. So now we have a comparison. The first line of code here, it actually calculates the maximum of empty list, and the next line of code actually calculates the minimum of numbers. So we see when we run that, now you see that instead of actually getting the default value, we are actually getting the value of the minimum of within those elements. So again, the terminology, analogy, or the concept is the same, that if empty list is provided, it will return the default value. If the list is non-empty, then it will calculate the minimum or the maximum value. That's it for now for this tutorial. I hope it was quite comprehensive for beginners. And as I have told you earlier, that soon I will be posting tutorials about statistical analysis in Python. So for those of you who actually want to learn Python programming skill, this is quite a comprehensive tutorials which I suggest you to look at for it. So I will suggest you and request you to subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell icon. So whenever I post tutorials about data science and statistical analysis in Python, so you get the tutorials right away. Thank you for joining me, and I will catch you soon in the next video.